I'm just gonna go ahead and straight out, flat out say it. Yvette Antone, Yvette Carnell, and Antonio Moore are horrible leaders, and anybody who is following them is going to go on the roller coaster ride, similar to Umar Johnson with a much higher drop. The narcissism that these individuals show, specifically attorney Antonio Moore, is quite astounding. For instance, I posted on this video with another account. As you can see, as I scroll all the way down, the 740 comments on this thing, I've scrolled all the way down to the bottom, trying to find my post I made from my other account, because it's kind of relevant to what I wanted to talk about. When I went here, I couldn't find it. But the beautiful thing, Mr. Antonio Moore, and anybody else who's still supporting him, is I recorded it. So you see this, let me see, Tariku. Let's see if that person is there. Jaletta. So we can make sure that this is the right one. Yeah, there it is. Tariku Jaletta. All right. See that? So what he did was he deleted this. So in general, before I even go down this road of discussion, when you have somebody who is deleting dissent, when they are deleting criticism, when they are sort of filtering out their remarks for anybody who is basically seeing the real problem, that's when you have a person on their hand who's trying to hide something or who is being disingenuous. I can even go directly into the comment that he made or response that he gave, which is also very, very telling. But at the same time, just in general, when you have somebody who you give an honest question or honest critique, and all of a sudden they fly off the handle, or they want to try to bury it or delete it, it's most likely that they are suffering from some level of narcissism, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not talking about narcissism as in selfishness. I'm talking about like real narcissism. Because what you're basically doing is you're threatening their image. You know what I'm saying? You're threatening their perception, their view to other people by pointing out things that should be. So let's go to the point at hand. I covered this in another video, but I didn't post it because I didn't really feel like I had other things to do. Antonio Moore has basically gone into this sort of little weird diatribe where he's trying to talk about, and Yvette Carnell has as well, talk about all these stupid little celebrity NFL bullshit. Now they're back on Barack Obama. They're on everything else but this right here, this Byron Allen Civil Rights Act of 1866, and we're going to get to that in a second. My thing is, I think that they're going to stay on these little rinky-dink topics and try to stay on these sort of current events. And if you notice also, Mr. Tone Talks is now monetizing his channel. So, regardless of what you think, YouTube approves of his message. Those with ears comprehended that. YouTube approves of his message such that they allow for advertising on his channel. And I think that they're going to stay on this. I told you the worth of his message, but I think they're going to stay on this celebrity bullshit. I don't care. I mean, Colin Kaepernick, I don't care about Colin Kaepernick. I really don't. Not too much. I understand the protests and everything else. But so far as how he gets money in the NFL, him going back to, I don't give a fuck. I'm not watching the NFL. Just because Colin Kaepernick goes back to the NFL, does that mean I'm going to start following it? No, I'm not. I don't give a damn. I don't give a shit. Okay? I really, truly don't give a shit. So, at the end of the day, him going and talking about this, Yvette doing the same thing, they're going to do everything they possibly can to stay on these topics as opposed to staying on this one. The reason why, let's go ahead and get into it. This comment I made from my other account, P.S., why weren't you in the courtroom when Byron was before the court? His stupid response. What is wrong with these people's apostrophe, yes, my dude, comprehension? I'm not one of the lawyers on this case. I'm an activist pushing for black folk in regard to this case. It's like people are kids trying to grasp politics. You see, okay, let's break it down. What's wrong with people's comprehension? Ad hominem attack by third party, whatever. I'm not one of the lawyers on this case. That has nothing to do with his ability to be in that courtroom. I'm an activist pushing for black folk in regards to this case. We'll get into that in a second because I don't know if you really should have been. It's like people are kids trying to grasp politics. Again, an ad hominem attack by third party. Okay, so first and foremost, you can actually go to the Supreme Court. Let me bring this up. Let me just go ahead and bring it up so we can just go ahead and get all the stuff out of the way. I think the site was Foot something. Yeah, free tours by Foot, Supreme Court. Let's just go straight there. So that way you don't have to listen to me. You don't have to believe me. You don't even much have to take out time to like research it yourself. You can figure it out. We could go ahead and go here directly. See how to attend oral argument. That is what you call it was in. An oral argument. Byron Allen, he was in an oral argument. So Mr. Tone Talks, attorney Antonio Moore, said that basically, or tried to imply without directly saying, that I'm not one of the lawyers on the case. So he's trying to make it seem like he couldn't go into the courtroom unless he was one of the lawyers on the case. Right? That has nothing to do with anything. Right? So at the end of the day, if you've been pushing for this case and pushing for people to support this case, you would think that you would want firsthand knowledge as to what actually happened in the case. What oral arguments were made on both sides. And both sides are very important because we'll get into that in a second. But you would think that you would want to be there since you've been the one pumping this up this whole entire time. But let's just go ahead and go here. Where is it? Let's go through the whole thing. While you can visit the Supreme Court courtroom as a visitor for lectures, cases are also open to the public. Called oral arguments, these are the 1 hour long sessions where each side is allowed 30 minutes to argue before the court. For the first Monday to October to mid-April, cases are generally heard on Mondays and Tuesdays and Wednesdays at 10 a.m. and at 11 a.m. with additional afternoon sessions as needed. There are two ways to attend. Two ways, not just one, two. There are two ways to attend a Supreme Court case. You could either secure a seat and witness the entire oral arguments. Don't worry about the word secure. It's not reserved. We'll get to that. And witness the entire oral arguments, or you can catch a quick 3-minute glimpse of the proceedings. These two lines form on the plaza before each case. For landmark Supreme Court cases, some people will line up days in advance to guarantee a spot. On a non-high-profile day, people arrive around 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. Normally, only the first 50 are allowed or are able to get in for the entire session. Numbered tickets are given out prior to seating to allow you time to go to a restroom, cafeteria, and cloakroom. If you don't get a seat, you can also do a walkthrough where you stay for a few minutes and then move on. You can rotate through as many times as you'd like by getting back in line. So this attorney Antonio Moore, could have done one of these two ways in order to be there. For this case that he's been pumping up this whole entire time, that is so fucking important. Everybody needs to support Byron Allen, and I'm actually second guessing that as of right now. But everybody needs to be supportive of Byron Allen. But I, as an attorney, am not going to get my lazy ass up and be one of the 50 people in line, or get there the same day and just cycle through at the very least. Right? Or since I already knew it was going to happen, ahead of time, work out who can be there on my behalf, right? Whether or not anybody could be there on my behalf and sort of get that information and give it to me. At least I get it secondhand, but secondhand from a firsthand trusted source, right? Let me tell you why. Let me show you actually why. Possibly Antonio Moore wasn't there. And I got into this video before, but let this play. You're going to hear attorney, I forgot his name, and attorney Temple, but I forgot his name. Bynum Jackson, maybe attorney Jackson. I'm not 100% sure. But you're going to hear these two, and we're going to come back.
This I think is a very tough call. And the reason being is because, the Supreme Court, a lot of people like to think of them as, being somehow super intelligent deities. They're not. They're just normal people just like you and I. And they bring their biases to the table just like you and I. And I look at this as I can foresee the majority of the court seeing this more not about race and more about commercial rights. All right. And seeing that this is more about Comcast or a business having its freedom and its right to contract with who they want to for whatever reasons that they choose to. And I believe that they would embrace the lower standard, the higher standard, that this should be a but-for standard even at the pleading stage, okay? So that they can limit the number of occasions in which people who claim to be discriminated against will have access to the court.
That's not my read from the court, though. Yeah. And I'm going to tell you, I listened to every breath that was taken. And
Pause. Antonio Moore, I know you're watching this. The reason why attorney Donald Temple was able to monitor every breath is that he was in the courtroom. He was in the courtroom. Continuing.
And bravo to Santamar. I'm probably mispronouncing her name, and I shouldn't be. I said it right. Okay, unbelievable. Yeah. On top of it, Ginsburg was not there.
Right.
She's sick, so we got 4 people.
Well, we understand she's going to participate in the
vote. So, but Kagan said something yesterday that was interesting, and this is what she said. Why do we have to have motivating factor or but for the pleading? It's a pleading.
Right.
And all these judges, Roberts, all these judges said, it's a pleading. It's the pleading, and you can't prove your case in the pleading, and why should we be all over the place? And even said, what's the difference between but for and motivating factor at the pleading stage? So I am not so sure if the court limits their focus only to the pleading and what's pled, that motivating factor won't remain there, and that they won't deal with, and I hope they don't deal with, the concession on the but-for standard of proof that was made by Byron's lawyers, which...
Let me run that back.
And I hope won't remain there, and that they won't deal with, and I hope they don't deal with, the concession on the but-for standard of proof that was made by Byron's lawyers, which...
Let me run that back again.
And I hope they don't deal with the concession on the but-for standard of proof that was made by Byron's lawyers, which by any objective measure, if anything, is hurting black people.
Let me run that back again.
And I hope they don't deal with the concession on the but-for standard of proof that was made by Byron's lawyers, which by any objective measure, if anything, is hurting black people. That concession, in my view, that concession, because I'm the next case and the next case and the next case and the next case, I can't intellectually or comprehend that. And I know what they say, but this litigation is from 1866. Right. So there prayerfully would be a 2150 and a 2250, and the laws on the books and how they're interpreted by the courts. We cannot give the people who are attacking our rights, whether it's voting rights or civil rights, an inch. Okay, so winning this could be a win, but if they change that but for to trial, you can go to trial and you win. If you don't get the evidence of discovery, right, and you go to but for, and you're telling a jury...
I don't think you even get past summary judgment.
You may not get past some, because they did that in employment discrimination when they started talking about the change, and with qualified immunity in the police litigation. So when you change these burdens of proof, and you see for us...
Pause for a second. Are you hearing any of this level of complexity with the issue when you hear this issue being discussed by attorney Antonio Moore? Do you hear any of the complexity that attorney Donald Temple, somebody who decided to wake up in the morning and take his ass down to the Supreme Court for a very important case, do you hear any of this level of complexity? Did you even know that that this Supreme Court was about the pleading stage and that trial wasn't really being determined? That when he kept on saying that my case is going to go forward, the reason why he was saying that is because they were trying to block him at the pleading stage. Was any of that told to you? If you only listened to Antonio Moore, did you get any level of complexity like this from him? Did you? If you did, please direct me to the video so I can get that level of complexity. Because I sure as hell didn't. I did not get that. So you're getting balanced critique, which is way more important than sort of unqualified, unquestioning support, right? So let me back it up a little bit and I'm going to let him keep on going.
They did that in employment discrimination when they started talking about the change and with qualified immunity in the police litigation. So when you change these burdens of proof and you see for us and for Byron, the real test, if you had to get to trial, is the jury instruction. And what they're telling the jury, and that's where that language that we're talking about, but for a motivating factor. So if you agree that you can tell a jury that but for that higher standard, it has to be but for the race discrimination, so many cases are going to go out the window at summary judgment.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, summary judgment.
Pause. Not to disrespect the other attorney on the panel. Not to disrespect him. His view is very important, but what was just said is extremely important. So it seems like the framing of this situation was that if you are supporting Byron Allen, you are supporting this to be applied to everybody, which is what I definitely thought, right? But really, in supporting Byron Allen, considering his attorney made that concession, and we're going to get into that in just a second, that at trial, he would have to get to the but-for standard anyway. What you're basically saying is, the 1866 law, the Civil Rights Act of 1866, is going to be available to rich people. It is going to be available to rich people who have a big enough case, who can still pay an attorney, because at trial, you're still going to remember Byron going through this crap about saying that you wouldn't be able to get an attorney because the but-for standard is going to make it difficult. You're not going to be able to have a contingency fee plan, which you usually don't have in employment or racial discrimination matters anyway. But you're not going to have an option for a contingency fee. You're going to have to pay a retainer and blah, 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 blah. Well, you're still going to have to do all of that if the but-for standard is there at trial. It doesn't matter if they go through discovery and they find this or that and the other. What they would have to find is that 100% of the reason why they did what they did was because of race. You would have to find a nigger email in your discovery with them never saying, oh, and that nigger is lazy. Like literally, if they say in that email that you found, oh, that nigger is so lazy. He doesn't do this. He didn't do that assignment. Well, technically, they showed racial discrimination, but when you went through discovery, you could not find enough evidence to satisfy the but-for standard. And just like Attorney Temple just outlined, which Attorney Antonio Moore failed to, is that at trial, when you finally do go to trial, the jury is going to be instructed to apply the but-for standard, and the judge is going to make it 100% clear what the but-for standard is. So unfortunately, in that email where it says that nigger is so lazy, he missed an assignment, what's most important about that email is that they said, after they said nigger, they said he missed an assignment. And they're going to use that to justify not being able to have a ruling against them. So if you're a big person like Byron Allen with a large amount of money in a high profile enough case, you could possibly, and hopefully people are reading between the lines, you could force a settlement without having to go to trial and having to deal with the but-for standard, because they may have, you know what I'm saying, concerns about whether or not you have enough money to go through a full trial, right? So you may get a settlement. But everybody else who's, you know, using that law because they got fired from a job because of racial discrimination, they're still going to have to go through the but-for standard, and their counterparty is still going to be able to use extensions to the legal system, basically running them through paperwork to run up their attorney fees, such that they either run out of money before they get to trial, or they, you know, have to invest so much money that they they have to question about whether or not they're going to get that money back in the judgment, even if they did get money back, right? And therefore, at that point, if they want to settle again, they'll still be settling for pennies on the dollar of what the actual claim is. So let's get into what Byron's touted legal mind said in court. Erwin Cherminsky, who was arguing for Allen, acknowledged that Allen eventually would have to show that race was the sole cause for Comcast's rejection. But he argued that it would be an insurmountable burden to meet if plaintiffs have to prove that at the outset of a case, or of the case, as they would not have the benefit of conducting dispositions and discovery. Where is the but-for standard in the Civil Rights Act of 1866? I understand the references to preceding Civil Rights Act having a but-for standard, but that has nothing to do with the first. What he should have been arguing, and what Byron made it seem like he was arguing, or that Cherminsky was going to be arguing, he made it seem as though he was going to be arguing that the law should be applied as a motivating factor standard. But it seems as though the reality of it is that his attorney was arguing, and did argue, that the motivating factor standard only has an application on the pleading stage, but admitted that at trial, you still have to do the but-for standard. Now, did you get that from Antonio Moore? I'll wait. Did you get that from Yvette Carnell? I'll wait. Did you get any of this level of complexity? I'll wait. I'll wait. And then the comment that was on his email, on his on his video, this one right here, very important, not even disrespectful. The reason why there are only 4 comments here, there were more, but he basically blocked me at this stage. He blocked me at this stage of being able to add more comments. The reason why I'm able to see this, you see this, I'm logged into my other account. The reason why I'm able to see this is because at this stage, I wasn't blocked, so the messages were showing. But I had already commented to this multiple times. You don't see those comments from this account on here because he had already blocked me. Blocked me why? Because I'm bringing up the fact that you wasn't in the courtroom? And that was posted shortly after your video was posted, so it was probably going to get a whole bunch of views. Antonio is not somebody y'all should be following. If you have or had criticisms of Umar Johnson, whether they be legitimate or illegitimate, at the very least, Umar Johnson is using his supposed profession of child psychology and everything else. He's using that profession to the people, or he's giving that profession to the people. He's using that as a part of his activism. Now, whether or not you think his activism is legitimate or fraudulent, that's a different story. He is giving out knowledge for a fee, unfortunately, but whatever. He is giving out knowledge, that would help parents navigate the process of getting their child in regular classes as opposed to being labeled special needs. At least he's using his profession in order to help out people. However, when you're talking about Antonio Moore, attorney Antonio Moore, did he give you that legal analysis that other attorney gave you? For me, the answer is no. No. He did not. When he was asked why he didn't show up to the courthouse, did he give a sufficient answer? For me, no. He did not give a sufficient answer. He basically ducked and dodged the answer and didn't give a real one. Because as you just saw, he could have been there. He just chose not to be there. Simple. And therefore, I have to ask myself the question of, what is the purpose of this, right? I want to be clear. The reason why you have people like Talib Kweli saying ADOS is trash actually has more to do with Tone and Yvette conflating ADOS, the hashtag, and ADOS, the people. They are conflating ADOS, the movement, quote unquote, that they're the name of the movement that they're trying to push for reparations, which I wholeheartedly support reparations. However, like I said in my previous video that I didn't post, all of those ideas I now have to take outside and wash with a hose and see whether or not I want to let it back in my house. But I do, in general and in theory, support the idea of reparations. All right? But because they have conflated their movement for reparations with the name of a people, right? American descendants of slavery, they have put themselves as quote unquote the de facto leaders of anybody who claims to be American descendants of slavery. So this is a bonus. So let's just go there. What's going to happen with black people who are majority socially conservative when they get reparations? I'll wait. Anybody? Bueller? Anybody? What's going to happen when a whole bunch of black people who are already socially conservative get a large amount of money as a part of reparations? Do you think they're going to still be Democrats? Do you think they're still going to be Democrats? Do you think that they're going to be able to, that they're going to support that the money that they just got through the government be basically taxed away from them? Now, yes, this could be, to be fair, this could be an additional ask for anybody who's receiving reparations, that they have a tax-free life for an XYZ amount of years after they receive their benefit, such that they have enough time to be able to develop it and it doesn't go back. But let's say whenever that window ends, do you think black people who are already socially conservative are going to remain Democratic leaning? I'll wait. The answer is no. The answer is the majority of individuals who currently are Democrat post reparations are going to take their social conservatism either directly to the Republican Party or use it ideally to create a third party, a la the Tea Party, right? A la the Tea Party. There will be a majority black or large wing of the Republican Party that are ADOS recipients of reparations. Is Tone telling you that? That video that I posted previously about Yvette Carnell talking shit about N'Cobra. You know, the funny thing about that video of her saying that about N'Cobra is the fact that right after, or a couple of weeks, I believe, after that statement, none other than Sandy Darity was a guest speaker at N'Cobra. Let's just go ahead and go there, because I know people are just going to be like, people who are suffering from cult-like symptoms have problems with believing people. So let's go. Sandy Darity N'Cobra. What is it? Is it apostrophe? here? Let's go here. Because I want to make sure that I'm... I think this is it. Because that comment was in February. Let's see. I'll have to come back on it. I have to do a little bit more research. I thought he spoke at Cobra this year. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do some research on that. Let's do speaker. Is it this? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, this is the other thing. So, in defending ADOS, I basically cursed out Talib Kweli because he retweeted me, but that is what it is. I refuse to remove it. I've already did it once before. I don't feel like removing it now. So let's see if I can go there a different way. Private windows shouldn't prompt my login. There we go. Yes, I will be on the radio show Female Solutions in the AM on the 20th and keynote speaker for the Chicago Reparations Day event on Saturday, the 23rd, next week, via Cobra. The issues that Yvette Carnell was running her mouth about was February 18th. It was the day after this. So Sandy Darity, who's a hell of a lot more knowledgeable than Tone talks on matters of basically wealth divide, racial wealth divide, because he basically has committed a large portion of his career studying that topic, had no problem with speaking within Cobra, even though Tone and Yvette have no problem with trashing it. You know, the reason why they want to trash it is because they want to be the face of, Oh, wow. This is even a better one. Peace, Sandy. I'm reading that you are a co-founder of the ADOS movement, which I don't know what the hell that means because that's not a real organization. Is there a 501c3? But anyways, is that accurate? Do you support Yvette's ADOS rhetoric about black immigrants stealing African American resources and disrespecting African Americans? My engagement with this process has been centered on my focus on whom should be eligible for receipt of black reparations in the U.S. It should be ADOS. Beyond that, it is Breaking Bound and Tone Talks who have developed this movement on other fronts. So he doesn't really get into that type of shit because he knows it's divisive. He knows it's divisive. All you need to worry about is who gets reparations, and that's it. And why that separation should be there, and that's it. Going beyond that is their idea of basically carving out a section of population that they can control, which is the reason why instead of Talib Kweli, which you just saw, instead of Talib Kweli saying fuck or Antonio Moore is trash or Yvette Carnell is trash, he has to say ADOS is trash because they have tried to make it one and the same with them. And as you can see, I'm not some sort of sellout because I just cursed his ass out for that shit. Because like I said, I'm ADOS. The only founders of ADOS are the people who enslaved us and the Africans who helped. There are no other founders of ADOS than that, right? Breaking Brown and Tone Talks and Vet Carnell and Antonio Moore, they are not founders of ADOS. They are just ADOS members or people with lineage of American descendants of slavery. But yeah, it's so funny that the day after they went in that little call, and you have it's on my video, it's on my page, where on February 18th, a vet was talking shit to a caller, talking about Cobra and this, that, and the third, trying to low-key throw shots. This was already confirmed. Do not follow Yvette Carnell. Do not follow Antonio Moore. And by follow them, I mean blindly support them. If you have criticisms, bring up those criticisms. I've already shown you what happens in a situation where you bring up criticisms. You're going to end up being blocked, and your comments going to end up being deleted. That's what's going to happen, right? Or it's just not going to show up. Maybe it's still there. It's just not going to show up. You know what I'm saying? It's going to go in a rabbit hole, black hole somewhere. But bring them up. But if you have criticisms, bring them up, because you are ADOS. If you are ADOS, they are just members. They are just ADOS members who are co-founding a movement, quote unquote, quote unquote, using a hashtag. That's what they are. They are not leaders of you. They are not your leaders unless you allow them to be. And I would suggest that if you're going to allow them to be your leaders, that you basically, take a little bit more time and evaluate these individuals. But so far as the Byron Allen situation, we're going to see what the hell happens, because his attorney has basically thrown us under the bus. You know what I'm saying? He came out and wanted all of our support, this, that, and the third, and he got my support. I was the one supporting him 100%, going hard in the paint. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, I didn't know any of the complexities, because I'm sitting around listening to fucking Tone Talks. You know what I'm saying? I'm listening to fucking Tone Talks. There's a huge amount of complexity and nuance in that case. And at the end of the day, he's not helping us out. If anything, the law says nothing about but for. His attorney has interjected that and conceded that as being a part of the law. So now, whereas if I wanted to come back, for instance, behind him and say, hey, the law doesn't say anything about a but-for standard, I guarantee you this Byron Allen case is going to put that in place. So it's a pathetic charade. And all they're going to do is, like I said, follow current events and do all this other crap. And then in spring, when the Supreme Court comes back with their decision, they're going to be like, oh my God, I'm so shocked. The Supreme Court, because of Trump, is so blah, 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 blah. You have this information right fucking now. It's available to you. And even if it wasn't available to you by a secondhand source, Antonio Moore and Yvette, I want to ask for photos on Twitter, because I didn't bother to show up and take a flight from Atlanta to DC so I can be there myself. You could have actually just been in the courtroom and got the information directly. And don't say you don't have the ability to think, because there was an attorney in the room. And attorney Donald Temple, who got the same concerns hearing it himself. Leaders are not people who constantly get information secondhand. Leaders are not constantly people who lick their finger, stick it up in the air, find out which way the wind is moving, and decides to put a that's racist analysis to it. That's not leaders. Those are just commentators, sort of editorial opinions at best. Hack opinions mailed in by crackpots, probably. But that's the best that is. It's not real analysis. It's not real leadership. Real leadership is, I'm an attorney. Of course I was there. When I asked that question, you know what he should have responded to? Of course I'm there. I'm an attorney. I'm pushing for reparations. This is a key piece of court case that's going to set precedent, that's going to affect my people. Of course I'm there as an attorney. Why wouldn't I be there? That should have been his response. Was it? Now, let me put it. Was it? Or was it some bullshit ad hominem attacks with some bullshit allusion to a reason why he wasn't there that would only be valid to people who are stupid and don't do research? A simple Google search. You follow him, you want to. You follow Yvette Carnell, you want to. all you're doing is giving them ad revenue and donations via Super Chat. But mark my words, there's going to be an issue between, I predict it right now, there's going to be an issue between Yvette and Tone. Period. There's going to be a fucking issue between them. Sure as shit stank. There's going to be a fucking issue between them. You know what I'm saying? With him calling into her show every 5 fucking seconds because he wants to comment on it, because his live streams don't really do as well and everything else. He wants to be on her show. Sure as shit stank. Eventually, they're going to have an argument. She going to not answer his calls for like 2 shows or 3 shows or some shit like that. And then all of a sudden, he gonna say some sly shit eventually. How they do other people is eventually how they're gonna do themselves, each other. How they do other people is how they're gonna do each other. Guaranteed, 100%. That's gonna happen. Mark my words. That's my prediction. Second prediction is, and my assumption is that there is no criticism of Christianity coming out of Yvette's mouth or Tone's mouth. No criticism whatsoever. There's no way you can be a black Christian and actually ever get reparations. Just like there's no way you can wear handcuffs and go into a police station and file a police report. You know why? Because when they look at you, they don't see somebody who is possibly a free person, an innocent bystander who's making a police report. They see you as a potential criminal. Just like when you go before a government who used to look at you as 3/5 of a human, as property, as a slave. When you go before that government as a Christian asking for reparations, they still see chains on you, just around your head, around your heart. They see that you still have that Christian theology, that Christian slave theology that we fed you. So eventually, ultimately, you see me as the master. You see me as your master. That's what that religion teaches you. That people who look like me could possibly be your savior. So yeah, you may be upset if I don't do what you want me to do, but ultimately my image is the same potential image of your salvation. So you ain't gonna do too much of nothing. Nobody who is a Christian, it doesn't mean that you don't advocate for peace or nonviolence. It doesn't mean that. They don't have a market cap or a patent on those two concepts. Doesn't mean that. Right? Doesn't mean that. And I'm not advocating for an anti or opposite route. No, I'm saying there's no way you could be a Christian and ever get reparations. There's no way. Because you know ultimately what that white person can say? You're a Christian, right? You believe in God, right? Well, it's good. It's a good thing that we enslaved you and we brought you to this country, because otherwise you would be in that other country and you would go to hell. You know what? You know, the funny thing is, a director of a hospital told me the exact same fucking thing on LinkedIn. He's currently in the process of being fired because of it. But a director of a hospital told me the exact same fucking thing. And ultimately, that is very good logic if I were a Christian. That would be very good logic if I were a Christian. I'm not a Christian. I have nothing of value from the slave master or his kids. And so long as you have something of value from the slave master or his kids, they technically can say, well, we gave you something. If we didn't give you anything, we gave you a religion that hopefully will save your soul. So don't ask for anything else. And ultimately, Yvette and Tone, who are having ADOS conferences in a church, is going to have to confront the fact that Christianity is anti-black. That Christianity is the biggest tool of white supremacy there ever existed. That you can conquer a whole nation by sending your missionaries first. They're going to have to confront that. And lastly, No, I'm just gonna keep it there because if you still have any sort of reservations about what I'm saying, that's on you. That's on you. I'm gonna leave it at that. I don't follow Yvette or Tone. I don't really support this Byron Allen case because I feel as though his attorney has already made concessions that are detrimental to me and to others who come behind Byron Allen. There is no way for him to redo his oral arguments. He's already done. The only way that he can actually get out of the concession that he's already made is to cancel or stop his lawsuit entirely and possibly even refile it, which I know he's not going to do because he's probably on track to get a nice little settlement out of the matter. But I don't support his case anymore. I don't support his case anymore. I hope for the best, but considering his attorney has already made, quote unquote, he's the best constitutional law professor. He's written 11 books, but he couldn't make a fucking argument for motivating factor for a Civil Rights Act of 1866. He couldn't make that. He couldn't make that argument that we're arguing for motivating factor at pleading and at trial. It should be both. A but-for standard in any discrimination case is completely unacceptable. Did he make that argument? No, he did not. He did not make that argument. So, frankly, fuck that case. It makes nothing. I hope for the best, but fuck it. It really is not going to help me out with the damn. So, anyways, that's all I got to say. You still fuck with them, don't fuck with me.